Morning. I'm the Reverend Dr. William L. Johnson, the third chaplain here at Christian Hospital Northeast, and the one who shares these messages with you week after week. I am so happy to share with you our morning meditations. They are meant to be an inspiration and an encouragement to you as you journey through your week and as you get through the day. Many of us have found ourselves helped and supported by a word from our friends. We get by with a little help from our friends. I think the Beatles or someone or Rolling Stones shared that with us some years ago. Here it is. Today's message is entitled On the Brink of Everything. On the Brink of Everything. I jotted down some notes that I want to share with you. I thought you might find intriguing and enriching at whatever moment you are in your life. I'm reminded that everyone in every situation, all of the great moments in our lives, and nearly every great faith tradition, and every empire, and every organization, and every family, and yes, dare I say, every individual comes upon a moment in their lives or several moments during their lifetime or life cycle in which it is a culmination of what seems like maybe the interruption of everything, but also maybe perhaps it brings us to a point of being on the brink of everything. And what do I mean by being on the brink of everything? It means that whenever you're on the brink, you are at the place on the edge of some type of change, some sort of transformation, some moment of transcendence for whatever it is that we are experiencing in our lives. We all come into some moment that intersects with everything else that says this is a seminal moment in your life in which you have to make some decisions or things happen in your life that force us into the directions in which we will live through for the coming days, the coming weeks, the coming years that will be transformative for our entire life. Several years ago, many years ago, I won't say many years ago, but several years ago, I picked up a book written by Terry McMillan. She's one of my favorite authors. A best-selling author, Terry McMillan, wrote a book entitled The Interruption of Everything. And in that book, the main character found herself almost at middle age, at the place where she has younger children who are now moving into young adulthood. Looking ahead of her, she has a parent that needs her care. She has a relationship with her spouse that is tenuous at best. She has a career path that is being shaken up and not quite sure where she wants to go or what she wants to do. And all of that culminates with the desire to be loved, to be appreciated, to be respected. All of those things are happening at the same time for us and for her in their story. And I would dare say many of us have found ourselves on that brink, at that place when everything matters. How we deal with our families, how we deal with our parents, how we deal with our children, how we deal with our careers. What are we going to do about our health condition? What is going to happen when we have to make really crucial decisions ahead of us? And all of those things sometimes come at the same time on the brink, almost just about reaching the place where something has to give. Something's going to change. A decision is going to be made. And when we find ourselves in that place, we don't want to make those decisions. And even to not make a decision is indeed, as the old adage goes, is making a decision. And so that when we're on the brink of everything, it challenges us deeply. It challenges us intellectually, it challenges us emotionally, it challenges us spiritually, it challenges us in our relationships around us, it challenges us with a vision of what it is that we thought we would be and what it is that we are right now. And we bring all that we are to that very moment. To be on the brink of everything sets us up for a moment of clarity, a moment in which we have to be clear about what it is we're facing or what it is that we're going to do about circumstances. Perhaps you are faced with a life-changing, a life-altering, a life-limiting disease. Maybe perhaps you're looking at the loss of a family member, a mother, a father, that changes your whole way of looking at life. Maybe perhaps you've been the main caregiver for someone that you love so dearly, and now they are taken away or they are no longer with us. What do you do with the rest of your life? Maybe perhaps you are at that place where you are empty nester, and your child has gone off to school and they have gone on with their lives, never really to come back home the same way they left. Maybe perhaps you're at a place where you're in relationship with a spouse or a loved one, someone you care for, your significant other, and now you're at the crossroads of whether or not you try to make it work, or maybe you go to the place where you are sure that you can't. Those moments are really difficult. And being on the brink of everything means everything weighs on what decisions you make now, except when they don't. And that's what I want to talk about for a moment. Because when we're on the brink of everything, it does mount up with a lot of anxiety. We're wondering what we're going to do with the next days, next weeks, next hours, next years of our lives. And that can be overwhelming. But when you find yourself in a place where you realize that those moments come not to break us down, but actually to make us, that everything that comes to that moment is indeed necessary and important for us, that we needed the heartbreak and the hardship. We needed to have love and challenges and difficulties, the ups and the downs. Everything that came into weighing into where you are was necessary to bring you to the place where you find yourself. And that's sometimes overwhelming, but also a marker for us to remember that everything that we need, we have in the moments we're in. Yeah, I like that. It means that whatever I bring to the table, whatever I have found myself wrestling with, all the wisdom, all the hurt, all the pain, all the good things, all the benefits, all of those things that have brought me to this place are now at my disposal to pull from as I move through this moment that means to do at least several things. When you're on the brink of everything, it means that it is a time that brings us what I call the three T's. It is a time that brings us to a place where we are called upon to translate the experience we're in. First of all, translate it. In other words, a translation means to make it palatable so it can be understood. In other words, if you're there and you're at the brink of everything and things are changing, the key thing to do is to try to wrap your mind around what it all means. Sometimes we don't get answers right away, but we do know that it has the ability to be translated. That when I suffered a loss, was it really a loss, or was it freeing me up for something else? Was it a time in which my career path, the dreams I had of being in the NBA, or the dreams I had to be a millionaire? I mean, I may go play the lottery, or I may try to do these things, but the path that I thought I would take now no longer seems to be viable. What do you do when you meet those disappointments and meet those difficulties? The best thing to do is to glean some other meaning from it to get understanding about what happened and where you are. Some things we don't always understand. Tragedies, difficulties, trauma, they don't always come with a guide to tell us why it happened. However, we can always measure how we got to where we are and how we're feeling right now. And I want to translate that so that I can say, now this seems like it's foreign. How do I understand that? How do I understand the divorce? How do I understand the loss? How do I understand grief? How do I understand happiness and joy? How do I understand that surprise that my coworkers gave me to celebrate me when I didn't think they even remembered my birthday? All of those things bring us to the place where translating it helps us get our hands on it. And when we're on the brink of everything, it's okay to take a moment to jot down what it meant to you and why it made you feel the way you feel. In other words, journal the break, journal the moment. Write down what it makes you feel like in that moment, and I guarantee you it will serve you well. When you're on the brink, it not only has calls us to translate it, but it also calls us to be transformed by it. Yeah, a transformation is important. Sometimes things happen to us and they change us. We cannot go back to life before that event. We can't go back to life before things happen. Like in Terry McMillan's book, she found herself, the main character found herself with something that made all of the little things not matter. It was the interruption of everything. It changed her. It made her see things differently. And some moments in our lives change us. And they don't have to change us for the worse. We get to choose how that transformation affects us. It makes us so that I may not be able to do this, but I can do that. I may not have my dad around anymore, but I can be a better father to my own children. In other words, there's a way to be transformed by the occurrences and the events of our lives if we allow ourselves to. Some of us are struggling with that transformation moment. We refuse to be moved or changed by them. But hear me, there's nothing wrong with being changed by things that have happened to us. I've often said during a pandemic, it changes the way we do what we do. It changes the way we interact with one another. It changes the way we are propelled to engage with technology and different things. Mainly, one of the great outcomes of the pandemic, not per se, but the way we have had to be transformed by it, was this forum. How do we reach patients and families and community leaders and people who are listening in? This is how we have to do it virtually because we could not do it in person the way we had done it before. It transformed the way we do things. And that, my friends, is a good thing. It propels us into trying new things, to do things that we haven't done before. Someone said it, I can't remember the quote, but sometimes the things that happen to us necessitate a change. And it is necessity that makes us bring about inventions. And we learn how to invent new things because we have to. I'm convinced that that's what's happening in our world and what's happening in our lives, that societies and empires and others have had to adapt because they had to. It transforms us and them. Which brings me to this last little piece. I think it's important to get our hands on it. Not only does it have the ability to call us to transcend and to be transformed, or to translate, but it calls us to transcend. That's what I meant to say. We translate what has happened. We can put it in a language that we can understand it. And then we find ourselves being transformed by that thing. But let me remind you that when we're on the brink, it also moves us to transcend, to go higher, to go beyond what we thought was even possible. Which brings me to my final point and final little message here for us today. When we're on the brink of everything, when everything is happening, Parker Palmer wrote a book entitled On the Brink of Everything, and he talks about aging gracefully, but being able to live our lives with all sorts of energy and enthusiasm, no matter what age we are in. And when he wrote the book, he was broaching upon 80 years old. And what he was saying to the rest of us is that you still have vibrancy and life at the stage of life you're in. And you have to be willing to transcend all the mores, all the things that people say, all the things you've said to yourself about what you cannot do, and start moving to the place of doing the things that you can. And you'll discover you can do far more things that you ever thought, and you will transcend all those things that you thought you could not. In other words, grace carries you through. It is one of those things for those of you who may not understand the language of grace. Grace is that thing in the biblical sense, or in a religious ecclesial sense, rather, I'm say it that way, is something like unmerited favor. It is that which takes you over. Or if you're from New Orleans, you might find it a term lagniappe as a better term. It is the extra, the cream on top. In other words, grace covers us. It takes us above and beyond that which we thought was possible. And so that's what I want to communicate. When you're on the brink, it often pushes us in a place where we transcend. We move higher than anything that we thought was imaginable. And then we discover why we needed it, why you needed to cry, why you needed the struggle, why you needed the hardship, why you needed the difficulty, why you had to have the ups and the downs, why you had to have darkness and light, why you had to have good and bad, all make for our ability to transcend this and then move to something higher, something better, something deeper, something wider, something more enriching. And I have a feeling that maybe perhaps you're at that place. You're on the brink of everything. Maybe all the things that you've known are closing in. Family is no longer supportive. Friends are no longer around. Finances may be a little fickle. You might be struggling with your career goals and where you're going. Maybe perhaps your health is declining or a loved one is in trouble. Maybe it may not be any of those negative things. Maybe you're overwhelmed with opportunities and changes and different things that add to your life, and it makes you a little anxious about what the next step might be. And when you're on the brink of everything, I'm inviting you to embrace it. Lead into it. Trust that the one who created you knows more about your next step than you do, and knows about your last step better than you could ever analyze. In other words, we're not by ourselves when we're on the brink of everything. But the one who creates us builds a bridge and just simply says, you will never see the stones before you to cross from here to there until you take the first step. And if you take that one, have courage to take the next. And as the old saying goes, those who are sagacious and wise would say, as you walk this path, may the ground rise up to meet you along the way. I guarantee you it probably will if you embrace everything. When you're on the brink of everything, remember that you're not alone, that you do so with the help of your creator guiding you each step of the way. Sometimes you may not be aware. Sometimes it'll feel like you're doing it by yourself, but you are not. There is a design for your life, an assignment for your life. If only you walk through it and walk with the one who wrote the script. That's what I leave you today. Be encouraged this week. If you're on the brink and you're feeling the stress and tension of it all, take a deep breath and then embrace it and say, let it come. I know that I'm not in it alone. Why? Because I'm with you and others are with us on this journey. And guess what? Your creator is too. Thank you so much. We appreciate you for giving us your time. I know that I leave these messages. I try not to keep them so long, but give us your feedback. Drop us a line at william.johnson@bjc.org. You can send us a message, an email, and give us your feedback on these messages. We love to hear that feedback, and we'll adapt accordingly as best as we can. Thank you so much. Have a great day and have a great week. Remember, you are loved, you're appreciated, and you're irreplaceable. Have a good one.